A bustling restaurant, a busy evening, and a moment that no one in the room could have predicted. When a poised black woman walks in, dressed in casual attire, she's greeted by dismissive looks and impatient service from a waiter clearly judging her by appearances. What he doesn't know, she's not just another customer, she's one of the most celebrated restaurateurs in the country, and is there for a reason that could change his life forever. As she calmly endures the subtle mistreatment, the tension in the air grows. Will his behavior cost him more than just a tip? What will happen when the truth about who she is comes to light? This story is more than just about a bad interaction. It's about perception, respect, and the lessons people learn when they judge a book by its cover. Stick around to see how this unforgettable moment unfolds. The woman, quietly observing the bustling dining room, takes her seat near the window. She glances around, noticing every detail: the decor, the menu, the staff interactions. She isn't here just for a meal. She's here to assess the very restaurant that might soon belong to her. But the waiter, clearly unaware of her true purpose, treats her as though she doesn't belong. His tone is curt, his responses rushed. When she asks a simple question about the menu, he brushes it off with a dismissive shrug. Other patrons receive warm smiles and attentive service, but she's left waiting longer than anyone else. Still, she doesn't react. Instead, she carefully takes mental notes, her calm demeanor masking the storm of thoughts running through her mind. Behind her composed exterior, she's wondering, if this is how they treat someone they perceive as ordinary, what else is being overlooked in this restaurant? As the evening unfolds, the woman's patience is further tested. The waiter continues to provide minimal attention, barely making eye contact. Meanwhile, she notices how attentively he serves a nearby table of well-dressed diners, offering detailed menu recommendations and refilling their drinks without being asked. It's clear his attitude is based on assumptions, and those assumptions couldn't be further from the truth. In the kitchen, the staff is overwhelmed, dishes piling up as the manager barks orders. She quietly observes the cracks in the system, the uneven service, the rushed presentation of meals, and a team that seems to lack direction. It's not just about the waiter's behavior, it's about the culture of the entire place. Then, a moment of subtle irony. The restaurant owner walks in and greets the woman warmly, sparking curiosity in the staff. The waiter notices but doesn't yet realize the storm brewing just beneath the surface. The waiter's demeanor shifts slightly when he notices the owner chatting with the woman. He straightens up, suddenly more attentive, but it's clear he's still unaware of her significance. The woman, however, remains calm, her expression unreadable as she exchanges polite pleasantries with the owner. She thanks him for the warm welcome and casually mentions that she's enjoying the opportunity to experience the restaurant firsthand. The owner nods, completely unaware of the treatment she's endured. As the waiter returns to her table, his tone is forced and his smile thin. He's trying to recover, sensing she might be more important than he initially thought. But the damage is done, and she's already seen enough. Each interaction, each careless moment, has painted a vivid picture of how the restaurant operates when no one is watching. The room seems to hum with tension as she quietly asks the waiter one pointed question. Is this how you treat all your guests? The question lingers in the air, heavier than he expected. Before he can stammer a response, the owner begins approaching again, this time with a knowing look that suggests the truth is about to come out. The waiter stammers, his confidence visibly shaken by her question. Before he can respond, the owner steps in, addressing the woman with a tone of respect that immediately catches everyone's attention. "I hope everything is to your liking," the owner says, his eyes flicking between her and the waiter, sensing something is off. The woman smiles politely but doesn't answer right away. Instead, she looks at the waiter, her silence stretching long enough to make him shift uncomfortably. But just as the tension reaches its peak, another unexpected moment unfolds. A couple seated nearby speaks up, mentioning how they've also noticed the waiter's uneven behavior throughout the evening. Their comment confirms what the woman had already suspected. Her experience wasn't an isolated incident. The owner's expression hardens as he pieces things together. He turns back to the woman, now clearly realizing she's not just another guest. "Would you mind joining me for a private conversation?" he asks. As they step away, leaving the flustered waiter behind, the entire dining room feels charged, the staff and diners whispering among themselves. Behind closed doors, the woman finally speaks plainly, dropping a revelation that will change everything. She's not just there for dinner. She's there to evaluate the restaurant as its potential new owner. The owner's jaw tightens, realizing the stakes are far higher than he could have imagined. Meanwhile, the waiter, clueless about what's happening behind the scenes, anxiously waits, completely unaware of how his actions have set the stage for a life-altering confrontation. In the office, the woman remains composed as she lays out her observations. She details the flaws she noticed: disorganized staff, inconsistent service, and most importantly, the discriminatory attitude she experienced firsthand. The owner listens, his face pale with embarrassment and concern. "I had no idea," he says, but she cuts him off gently. "That's the problem," she replies. "You don't see what happens when you're not looking." Back in the dining room, the waiter's nerves are unraveling. He watches as the owner returns with the woman, his expression unreadable. The woman walks back to her table, collects her belongings, and then, to everyone's surprise, turns to address the entire staff. "I came here tonight not as a customer, but as someone considering the future of this restaurant," she announces. Guests ripple through the room as her identity is revealed. The waiter's face turns crimson, realization sinking in. But just as the weight of her words settles, she turns to the owner with an unexpected twist. "This place has potential," she says, "but only if the culture changes, starting with accountability." She looks directly at the waiter, her tone firm but fair. Every guest deserves respect, regardless of how they look. The owner nods, vowing immediate changes, and the woman smiles faintly before walking out, leaving the staff and diners stunned. Outside, she takes one last look at the building, knowing she's left an indelible mark. The waiter, shaken but reflective, realizes this moment might just be his second chance. As the woman walked away, the restaurant buzzed with a mixture of shock and reflection. The staff, especially the waiter, were left to grapple with the reality of how much one evening, and one person, could change everything. The owner called an immediate meeting, vowing to implement the changes she'd suggested. Training programs were discussed, and a new emphasis on respect and inclusivity began to take shape. The waiter, still reeling from the events, realized this wasn't just a wake-up call for the restaurant, but for himself. He knew his behavior had been wrong, shaped by assumptions he didn't even realize he carried. Determined to do better, he approached the owner, requesting to be part of any efforts to rebuild the restaurant's culture. Meanwhile, the woman's quiet impact rippled beyond the walls of the restaurant. Her visit was a reminder that respect and integrity should always come first, no matter who,